The first industrial revolution in the context of industrial organizational psychology imagine a world where nearly all work is done by hand. Small workshops, farms, and cottage industries dominate the economy. Then, in the late 18th century, a transformation begins, one that will change the course of human history forever. This is the story of the first industrial revolution and its profound impact on the workforce, productivity, and the field we now recognize as industrial organizational psychology. The first industrial revolution began in Britain around 1760, driven by groundbreaking innovations that mechanized production and boosted efficiency. Three key factors fueled this transformation: steam power, mechanization, and the factory system. One of the most significant inventions was James Watt's steam engine, which improved upon earlier models by enhancing fuel efficiency and providing a reliable power source. This innovation revolutionized industries by enabling factories to operate larger machines, making mass production possible. Other key contributors included Richard Arkwright, known as the father of the factory system, who invented the water frame, a spinning machine powered by water or steam that significantly increased textile production. Samuel Crompton combined features of the spinning jenny and the water frame to create the spinning mule, enhancing both the quality and quantity of yarn. Meanwhile, Edmund Cartwright developed the power loom, automating the weaving process and boosting textile output. These inventions marked the beginning of industrial automation, drastically reducing the need for manual labor in textile manufacturing. The mechanization of production transformed the nature of work. Previously, most labor was performed in small workshops or home-based settings, where artisans had greater control over their work pace and environment. With the rise of factory-based labor, workers migrated to urban centers like Manchester and Birmingham in search of jobs. This shift introduced standardized tasks, repetitive motions, and rigid work schedules governed by the factory clock. The division of labor emerged, reducing complex tasks into smaller, specialized roles to increase efficiency. However, this came at a cost. Harsh working conditions became the norm, with long hours, low wages, and unsafe environments. Although IO psychology as a formal discipline had not yet emerged, the seeds of its principles were planted. Early factory systems highlighted the need for efficiency improvements, labor organization, and employee welfare, issues that would later become central to IO psychology. The revolution's impact extended beyond Britain, spreading across Europe and North America. Technological innovations, such as railroads and steamships, improved transportation, enabling the faster movement of raw materials and finished goods. This increased efficiency fueled global trade and economic growth. The factory system's focus on productivity and discipline laid the foundation for early performance management practices. The push for efficiency also inspired later concepts, such as time and motion studies, popularized by Frederick Winslow Taylor in the early 20th century. The poor working conditions of early industrialization gave rise to worker advocacy movements, eventually leading to labor unions, a precursor to modern employee relations and organizational behavior studies. The legacy of the first industrial revolution continues to influence the modern workplace. The principles of centralized production, specialized labor, and mechanized efficiency still define many industries today. However, technological advancements such as automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence have introduced new challenges. Just as early industrial workers were displaced by machines, today's employees face the risk of job loss due to automation. The need for reskilling and upskilling is more relevant than ever as workers adapt to new technologies. Similarly, concerns over employee well-being and burnout echo the struggles of early factory laborers. The first industrial revolution was more than a technological turning point. It was a catalyst for workplace transformation. It laid the foundation for modern management practices, influenced the evolution of workplace psychology, and shaped the way organizations approach efficiency and employee welfare. As we face ongoing technological revolutions, the lessons of the past remain clear. Adaptation, innovation, and the pursuit of a better working world are essential for sustainable progress. The Second Industrial Revolution, spanning from the late 19th century to the early 20th century, marked a period of rapid technological advancement, mass production, and industrial expansion. This era introduced new machinery, electrification, and scientific management techniques, transforming workplace practices, labor relations, and productivity methods. These changes significantly influenced the emergence and development of industrial organizational psychology by introducing scientific approaches to labor efficiency, employee management, and workplace dynamics. The technological innovations of this period dramatically reshaped the nature of work. The widespread use of electricity-powered factories and enabled continuous production cycles, significantly increasing productivity. One of the most notable innovations was Henry Ford's moving assembly line, introduced in 1913, which mechanized production by moving parts to workers rather than requiring workers to move. This innovation drastically reduced production time from 12 hours to 90 minutes per vehicle, demonstrating the power of task specialization. Meanwhile, the advent of mass production through interchangeable parts further improved efficiency but introduced monotonous, repetitive labor, highlighting the need for studies on worker fatigue and efficiency. The industrial expansion also gave rise to scientific management theories, most notably introduced by Frederick Winslow Taylor. His principles of scientific management emphasized four core tenets: standardizing work processes through time and motion studies, optimizing task performance by eliminating unnecessary movements, matching workers to suitable jobs based on their abilities, and providing financial incentives to increase productivity. Taylor's methods promoted systematic approaches to job analysis, performance measurement, and workplace efficiency, laying the foundation for modern IO psychology. As industries expanded, the need for effective personnel selection became evident. During World War I, Walter Dill Scott and Walter Van Dyke Bingham applied psychological testing to assess the suitability of military recruits. They developed the Army Alpha and Beta tests, which measured intelligence and aptitude, marking the beginning of systematic personnel selection. These psychological assessments were later adopted by civilian industries, forming the basis for employee selection and performance evaluation in IO psychology. The mechanization of labor and the standardization of work processes introduced repetitive and physically demanding tasks, raising concerns about worker well-being. In response, labor unions and advocacy groups demanded improved working conditions, fair wages, and reduced working hours. To retain workers and reduce turnover, companies introduced welfare programs and better pay, such as Henry Ford's $5 a day wage, which aimed to boost morale and reduce absenteeism. The emerging field of IO psychology began to explore employee satisfaction, motivation, and workplace safety, laying the groundwork for human relations management. This shift was further reinforced by Elton Mayo's Hawthorne studies, which revealed that social factors and employee morale significantly influenced productivity. The Second Industrial Revolution had a profound impact on IO psychology, introducing scientific approaches to labor efficiency, personnel selection, and workplace motivation. The emphasis on task optimization, standardized workflows, and worker welfare laid the foundation for modern IO psychology practices, shaping organizational development, performance management, and employee well-being interventions. James McKeen Cattell made several key contributions to the field of industrial organizational psychology, significantly shaping its development as a scientific discipline. His pioneering work in mental testing introduced standardized assessments to measure individual differences in cognitive abilities. Inspired by Francis Galton, Cattell applied mental tests to assess traits such as reaction time, memory span, and sensory discrimination. By using empirical data to evaluate mental functions, he laid the foundation for personnel selection based on psychological assessment. This innovation allowed organizations to make more objective and data-driven hiring decisions, influencing modern practices in employee selection and performance evaluation. Another major contribution was his advancement of the scientific measurement of traits. Cattell applied quantitative methods to study human characteristics such as reaction time, sensory perception, and memory. His rigorous application of statistical analysis to individual differences pioneered objective, empirical assessment methods in psychology. This scientific approach helped establish IO psychology as a discipline grounded in measurable and reproducible data, influencing the development of psychometric testing. Cattell's focus on individual differences research was particularly influential. He emphasized the importance of personal variability in predicting job performance and behavior. His belief that psychological traits could be measured and used to forecast workplace success became a guiding principle in personnel psychology. This focus contributed to the development of employee screening, placement, and aptitude testing, which became standard practices in many organizations. In addition to his empirical work, Cattell was a strong advocate for the promotion of applied psychology. He championed the practical application of psychological principles to solve real-world problems in industry, education, and public policy. By promoting the use of scientific psychology beyond the laboratory, he helped establish IO psychology as a legitimate and influential field. His efforts built collaboration between psychologists and industry leaders, leading to the practical implementation of psychological research. Cattell also made lasting contributions through the founding of psychological journals, which leads to disseminating IO psychology research. He established and edited several influential publications, including Psychological Review and Scientific Monthly. These journals provided a platform for sharing empirical findings and theoretical advancements, enhancing the visibility and credibility of IO psychology. By promoting the publication of scientific research, Cattell helped shape the academic infrastructure of the field, building its growth and legitimacy. Cattell's impact extended to psychological education and professionalization. As a professor at Columbia University, he trained and mentored a generation of psychologists, promoting the scientific study of human behavior. His advocacy for the professionalization of psychology helped establish the American Psychological Association as a major scientific organization. His leadership and influence were instrumental in transforming psychology into a respected and organized profession. Hugo Münsterberg made several key contributions to the development of industrial organizational psychology, helping to establish it as a distinct scientific field. As a founder of applied psychology, Münsterberg was one of the pioneers in applying psychological principles to industry, law, and business. His advocacy for using psychology to solve practical problems laid the foundation for IO psychology, promoting its relevance beyond academic settings. His work in employee selection and placement significantly influenced personnel practices. Münsterberg conducted studies on worker abilities and job demands, applying scientific methods to match employees to appropriate roles. By identifying the psychological traits needed for different jobs, he introduced data-driven employee selection practices, which became a cornerstone of modern human resource management. Münsterberg, 1913. His book, Psychology and Industrial Efficiency, was a landmark publication that applied psychological principles to industry. In this work, Münsterberg provided a systematic framework for enhancing workplace productivity through scientific psychological methods. His ideas on improving work efficiency, personnel selection, and job satisfaction influenced the direction of IO psychology as a field. Münsterberg also contributed to job performance assessment by developing methods to measure job effectiveness and identify productive work behaviors. His research introduced systematic approaches to employee evaluation, which improved the accuracy and reliability of performance appraisals. In his research on fatigue and work conditions, Münsterberg studied how fatigue, monotony, and environmental factors impacted worker productivity. His findings influenced workplace design strategies, leading to improved working conditions and efficiency-enhancing practices. By focusing on the psychological effects of work environments, he contributed to the development of ergonomic and human factors psychology. Münsterberg made significant strides in applied psychology in advertising. He conducted studies on consumer behavior and the psychological effects of advertisements, exploring how attention, perception, and emotions influenced purchasing decisions. His work laid the foundation for advertising psychology, influencing marketing strategies and consumer research. Walter Dill Scott made significant contributions to the development of industrial organizational psychology, particularly in the areas of advertising, personnel selection, and psychometric testing. As a pioneer in advertising psychology, Scott applied psychological principles to advertising and consumer behavior, helping to establish advertising psychology as a distinct field. His research demonstrated how suggestion, emotion, and mental imagery could influence consumer decisions, laying the groundwork for modern marketing strategies. During World War I, Scott contributed to personnel selection and testing by developing scientific methods for recruiting and placing military personnel. He introduced standardized tests to evaluate candidates' abilities and aptitudes, significantly improving the efficiency and accuracy of recruitment practices. His work during the war showcased the value of psychological assessments in large-scale personnel selection, influencing post-war business hiring practices. Scott also introduced rating scales for employee evaluation, creating objective tools to assess job performance. His rating scales provided a quantitative method for measuring employee effectiveness, making performance evaluation more consistent and reliable. This innovation contributed to the widespread adoption of structured performance appraisal systems in organizations. In his book, The Psychology of Advertising, Scott explored how emotions and suggestions influence consumer behavior. He argued that advertising was most effective when it appealed to human instincts and emotions, offering psychological insights that influenced marketing strategies. This work established Scott as a key figure in the emerging field of consumer psychology. Scott also contributed to the development of the Army Alpha tests, which were used to assess the intelligence of U.S. military recruits during World War I. His contributions to these psychometric assessments helped validate the use of intelligence testing in large organizations, influencing personnel selection practices in both military and civilian settings. As a leader in the field, Scott also served as the first president of the American Psychological Association with a focus on applied psychology. His leadership helped strengthen the legitimacy of IO psychology as a professional discipline, promoting its practical applications in business, industry, and public service. Robert Yerkes made significant contributions to the development of industrial organizational psychology through his pioneering work in psychological testing, intelligence assessment, and applied psychology. During World War I, Yerkes led the development of the Army Alpha and Beta intelligence tests, which were designed to assess and classify military recruits based on their cognitive abilities. The Army Alpha test was a written examination for literate recruits, while the Beta test was a non-verbal version for those who were illiterate or spoke limited English. These large-scale assessments introduced standardized psychological testing in the military, influencing personnel selection methods in both military and civilian sectors. Yerkes was also a prominent advocate for intelligence testing, promoting the use of standardized assessments to measure human abilities. His work contributed to the scientific measurement of intelligence in workplace settings, leading to the adoption of cognitive testing in employee selection and placement practices. This helped organizations identify individuals with the cognitive skills necessary for specific roles, improving workforce efficiency. In addition to his work on intelligence testing, Yerkes conducted comparative psychology research, studying animal behavior and learning, particularly with primates. His findings on adaptation, learning, and behavioral patterns provided early insights into human behavior in organizational settings. These studies influenced theories on motivation, conditioning, and behavioral responses, which were later applied to workplace management and organizational psychology. As a strong advocate for applied psychology, Yerkes championed the application of psychological science to real-world problems, including industry. He believed that psychology could address practical challenges in the workplace, such as improving productivity, selecting suitable employees, and optimizing working conditions. His advocacy helped establish IO psychology as a legitimate scientific discipline. Yerkes contributed to psychometric standardization, working on methods to enhance the reliability and validity of psychological tests. His efforts helped improve the accuracy and consistency of industrial assessments, making psychological testing more trustworthy and applicable in personnel evaluation process. Walter van Dyke Bingham made significant contributions to industrial organizational psychology through his pioneering work in personnel selection, psychological testing, vocational guidance, and employee development. His most notable contribution was in personnel selection and testing, where he developed scientific methods for employee selection, including aptitude and intelligence tests. By focusing on identifying the best fit between workers and jobs, Bingham laid the foundation for modern personnel assessment practices. His methods introduced objective, data-driven hiring and recruitment techniques, which became standard practices in both military and civilian employment settings. During World War I, Bingham co-developed the Army Alpha and Beta intelligence tests alongside Robert Yerkes and others. These tests were used for the mass psychological assessment of military recruits, helping to classify soldiers based on cognitive abilities. The Army Alpha test was designed for literate recruits, while the Beta test was a nonverbal version for illiterate or non-English speaking individuals. This large-scale application of standardized testing pioneered the use of psychological assessments in personnel selection and influenced hiring practices in both the military and private sectors. Bingham was also a strong advocate for applied psychology in industry, promoting the use of psychological principles to improve workplace efficiency and human resource management. His work emphasized the application of psychological research to solve practical business problems, helping establish IO psychology as a distinct and respected scientific field. In the area of vocational guidance and counseling, Bingham contributed to the development of career counseling practices, helping individuals make informed decisions about their careers. His work influenced vocational assessments and job placement services, contributing to the growth of career counseling as a professional discipline. Bingham also contributed to training and development programs, creating structured training initiatives to enhance employee skills and productivity. His focus on skill development and continuous learning influenced professional development strategies in both corporate and organizational settings. His work helped establish employee training as a formalized practice, contributing to workforce development standards. Lillian and Frank Gilbreth made groundbreaking contributions to industrial organizational psychology through their pioneering work in motion studies, task optimization, and human-centered management. Frank Gilbreth was a key innovator in motion studies, where he analyzed and streamlined workers' physical movements to reduce unnecessary motions. By identifying and eliminating inefficient actions, he significantly improved work efficiency and productivity, laying the foundation for modern time and motion studies. His focus on optimizing physical labor through scientific analysis became a core principle of workplace efficiency in IO psychology. Lillian Gilbreth, on the other hand, applied psychological principles to management, emphasizing the importance of worker satisfaction and well-being. She integrated human factors into workplace design, promoting ergonomics and worker health. Her work highlighted the psychological aspects of work, including motivation, fatigue, and job satisfaction, which contributed to the growing emphasis on employee-centered management in IO psychology. Together, the Gilbreths introduced the concept of Thurbligs, a system of 18 basic motions used to standardize and optimize tasks. By identifying the fundamental movements involved in any job, they minimized wasted effort and enhanced task analysis and job design. This innovation became a cornerstone of scientific management and job efficiency practices in IO psychology. The Gilbreth's motion studies had a profound impact on workplace efficiency, as they improved workflows by identifying efficient movements, reducing fatigue, and enhancing productivity. Their research influenced fatigue management strategies and contributed to the development of modern workplace ergonomics. Their legacy in IO psychology endures through their advocacy for worker-centered management, which balanced efficiency with employee well-being. By combining scientific management with human factors, the Gilbreths shaped modern ergonomics, task design, and industrial psychology, influencing contemporary workplace practices. George Elton Mayo made significant contributions to industrial organizational psychology, particularly through his Hawthorne studies and the development of the human relations movement. His research transformed the understanding of workplace behavior by focusing on the importance of psychosocial factors in productivity, motivation, and organizational effectiveness. Mayo is best known for leading the Hawthorne studies at the Hawthorne Works plant in the 1920s and 1930s. These experiments initially aimed to examine the effects of physical conditions such as lighting and brakes on worker productivity. However, Mayo and his colleagues discovered that social and psychological factors, such as attention from researchers and group dynamics, had a greater influence on employee performance than physical conditions. This finding demonstrated the importance of employee morale, motivation, and social interaction in the workplace, marking a shift from purely mechanistic views of labor to more human-centered management practices. Mayo's work also gave rise to the human relations movement, which emphasized the role of human factors in productivity. He argued that employee satisfaction, well-being, and relationships were important for maintaining high performance. His findings laid the foundation for modern human resources practices, advocating for employee-centered management and building a more people-oriented organizational culture. Another key contribution was his identification of the influence of informal work groups on productivity and behavior. Mayo observed that group norms, cohesion, and social bonds significantly impacted work output. This insight led to the development of team-based management approaches and influenced research on group dynamics in organizational settings. Mayo also highlighted the significance of the psychosocial work environment, stressing the importance of emotions, social needs, and interpersonal relationships in the workplace. His focus on employee well-being contributed to the growing field of organizational culture research and influenced workplace morale strategies. Mayo's findings on employee motivation and morale revealed that recognition and attention from management improved employee motivation and performance. His work influenced the development of employee engagement strategies, reinforcing the need for leadership attention, feedback, and social support in organizations. Mayo's contributions reshaped IO psychology by introducing human relations principles into workplace management, promoting the idea that employee satisfaction and social factors are important for productivity and organizational success. Kurt Lewin made significant contributions to industrial organizational psychology, particularly in the areas of organizational change, group dynamics, and action research. His theories and models provided a scientific foundation for understanding and managing workplace behavior, influencing both academic research and practical applications in organizations. One of Lewin's key contributions was field theory, which proposed that behavior is a function of the person and their environment. This emphasized the interaction between individual characteristics and situational factors, highlighting the contextual nature of workplace behavior and influencing research on employee motivation, job satisfaction, and organizational culture. He also introduced force field analysis, a model for diagnosing and managing organizational change by identifying driving forces and restraining forces. This framework became widely used in change management practices, helping leaders analyze resistance to change and implement effective strategies. Lewin, 1947. Lewin's research on group dynamics further shaped IO psychology by demonstrating how group membership influences individual behavior. His studies on leadership styles, team cohesion, and decision-making laid the foundation for modern team dynamics research, emphasizing the importance of communication, collaboration, and group norms in workplace performance. Another major contribution was action research, a model combining scientific research with practical problem solving. This iterative approach involved identifying a problem, implementing solutions, and evaluating results through feedback loops. It became a cornerstone of organizational development practices, building continuous improvement and evidence-based interventions in the workplace. Lewin, 1951. Lewin also introduced the three-step change model, which outlined the process of organizational transformation in three stages: unfreeze, change, and refreeze. This model became a key framework for managing change in organizations, helping leaders guide employees through transitions and sustain new behaviors. Lewin, 1951. Lewin also promoted experiential learning, emphasizing that individuals learn best through active participation and reflection. This concept became influential in employee training and leadership development programs, encouraging the use of hands-on learning and feedback-based approaches. Lewin, 1946. Kurt Lewin's theories and models transformed IO psychology by introducing a scientific framework for understanding workplace behavior. His work on group dynamics, organizational change, and action research continues to influence leadership practices, team effectiveness, and organizational development strategies today. Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, and Alexander Graham Bell made technological innovations that had a profound impact on industrial organizational psychology by transforming workplace efficiency, communication, and productivity. Thomas Edison is best known for inventing the light bulb in 1879, which enabled 24/7 factory operations by providing artificial lighting. This innovation significantly improved workplace conditions, extending working hours and enhancing visibility, which in turn boosted productivity and efficiency. By reducing reliance on natural daylight, Edison's invention allowed businesses to operate more flexibly, influencing shift work patterns and expanding labor capacity. Nikola Tesla revolutionized industrial operations by developing the alternating current system, which made efficient long-distance power transmission possible. This advancement enabled the widespread electrification of workplaces, promoting the use of automated machinery and mechanized processes. As a result, factories could increase their production output while reducing manual labor, contributing to greater workplace efficiency and industrial scalability. Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone in 1876, transformed business communication. His innovation allowed for faster and more reliable communication, reducing delays and enhancing organizational coordination. The telephone improved workplace efficiency by streamlining decision-making processes, facilitating remote collaboration, and reducing the need for physical travel, thereby enhancing overall operational effectiveness. Collectively, the contributions of Edison, Tesla, and Bell laid the foundation for modern workplace infrastructure, driving greater efficiency, productivity, and connectivity. Their innovations not only reshaped work environments, but also influenced the evolution of IO psychology by transforming organizational practices, employee productivity, and communication dynamics. Frederick Winslow Taylor's contributions to industrial organizational psychology were significant, as he pioneered the field of scientific management, fundamentally transforming the way work was structured and managed. His approach sought to improve work efficiency through systematic analysis and optimization of labor processes, introducing principles that still influence modern management practices today. Taylor's scientific management theory was built on four key principles: the development of a science for each element of work, scientific selection and training of workers, cooperation between management and workers, and the division of work and responsibility. The first principle, the development of a science for each element of work, involved systematically analyzing tasks to identify the most efficient methods. Through time and motion studies, Taylor meticulously observed and measured workers' movements, identifying unnecessary motions and inefficiencies. His famous shoveling experiment at Bethlehem Steel exemplified this principle, as he determined that using a standardized shovel with an optimal load of 21 pounds maximized efficiency while reducing worker fatigue. This experiment increased productivity nearly fourfold, demonstrating the power of applying scientific methods to work processes. The second principle, scientific selection and training of workers, emphasized the importance of matching employees to tasks based on their abilities and providing systematic training. Taylor believed that workers should be scientifically selected rather than left to learn tasks through trial and error. He introduced standardized training programs to ensure all workers performed tasks using the most efficient techniques. This principle laid the foundation for employee selection, job fit analysis, and skills-based training in IO psychology. The third principle, cooperation between management and workers, aimed to create a collaborative work environment. Taylor argued that mutual cooperation was essential to implementing scientific management effectively. Managers were responsible for ensuring workers followed standardized procedures, while workers were expected to apply the scientifically defined methods. Although this principle promoted cooperation in theory, in practice it often resulted in strict managerial control, diminishing worker autonomy. The fourth principle, the division of work and responsibility, introduced a clear separation between planning and execution. Taylor argued that management should focus on designing efficient work processes, while workers were responsible for carrying out the tasks. This principle enhanced workplace organization and led to the creation of specialized managerial roles in organizations, contributing to the development of modern management hierarchies. Nelson, 1980. Taylor's scientific management significantly improved workplace productivity, particularly in industrial and manufacturing settings where streamlined processes could be applied at scale. His methods helped cut costs and increase efficiency in industries such as steel production, textiles, and railroads, boosting profitability. However, his theories also faced criticism for their dehumanizing effects. By reducing work to standardized, repetitive motions, Taylor's methods were accused of treating workers as machines, stripping away creativity and autonomy. This mechanistic approach often resulted in job dissatisfaction and labor unrest, as workers found the work monotonous and demotivating. Despite the criticism, Taylor's contributions laid the foundation for modern IO psychology by promoting the scientific study of workplace behavior. His methods introduced concepts such as task analysis, performance measurement, and incentive-based motivation, which remain central to IO research and practice. His time and motion studies influenced ergonomics and human factors engineering, fields dedicated to optimizing human performance and reducing inefficiencies in the workplace. Furthermore, his emphasis on financial incentives laid the groundwork for employee motivation theories, which were later expanded by psychologists like Elton Mayo, whose Hawthorne studies revealed the importance of social and psychological factors in productivity. Taylor's influence is also evident in contemporary management practices, such as lean manufacturing and Six Sigma, which emphasize process standardization, waste reduction, and continuous improvement. His principles of efficiency and standardization shaped modern performance management systems, where productivity metrics and incentive-based pay remain central. Frederick Winslow Taylor's scientific management principles introduced a data-driven, systematic approach to workplace efficiency. While his methods greatly enhanced productivity, they also sparked debates about worker well-being and job satisfaction. His influence on IO psychology endures as his focus on efficiency, task analysis, and performance measurement remains embedded in modern organizational practices. In 1913, Henry Ford revolutionized manufacturing by introducing the moving assembly line, fundamentally transforming industrial production and significantly influencing industrial organizational psychology. The moving assembly line mechanized production by transporting parts to workers rather than requiring workers to move to the parts. This innovation allowed for task specialization and reduced inefficiencies, streamlining the production process. The impact on productivity was profound. By reducing car production time from 12 hours to just 90 minutes, Ford's assembly line demonstrated the power of task standardization and efficiency. The specialized workflow enabled mass production of automobiles, making cars more affordable and transforming the industry. This remarkable improvement showcased the effectiveness of streamlined processes, which became a central focus in IO psychology, influencing efficiency studies, task analysis, and performance optimization. However, the assembly line also introduced challenges for the workforce. While task specialization improved efficiency, it also made the work repetitive and monotonous. Workers were assigned narrow, repetitive tasks, which led to physical and mental fatigue. This raised concerns about job satisfaction and the impact of repetitive labor on worker well-being, drawing the attention of IO psychologists to issues of job design, motivation, and employee morale. In response to high employee turnover, Ford implemented progressive employee welfare policies, most notably the introduction of a $5 per day wage, double the industry standard. This move aimed to reduce turnover, boost morale, and increase worker loyalty. The higher wages also allowed workers to afford the very cars they were producing, contributing to economic growth and creating a model for linking pay incentives to job satisfaction, a concept that remains influential in IO psychology's motivation theories. Ford's assembly line also shaped standardized workflows and time management principles, which became foundational in productivity studies within IO psychology. The application of scientific management principles, influenced by Frederick Winslow Taylor, became more prevalent in organizational practices as companies sought to optimize processes and reduce waste through standardized, efficient workflows. Henry Ford's moving assembly line not only revolutionized industrial production, but also left a lasting impact on IO psychology. His innovations highlighted the importance of efficiency, standardized processes, and task specialization, while also drawing attention to the psychological consequences of repetitive work. The introduction of higher wages to improve morale and reduce turnover demonstrated the significance of employee satisfaction and motivation, concepts that remain central to modern organizational practices. The Third Industrial Revolution, marked by the rise of computers, digital technologies, and automation, significantly transformed the workplace and reshaped industrial organizational psychology practices. The introduction of computers, robotics, and data systems streamlined administrative tasks and increased productivity by reducing manual labor. As automation replaced many repetitive jobs, IO psychologists focused on job redesign and skill adaptation, helping organizations restructure work processes and redefine employee roles to align with technological advancements. The emergence of email, intranets, and enterprise software revolutionized workplace communication and collaboration. These tools facilitated faster information exchange and enabled remote teamwork, prompting IO psychologists to conduct research on virtual teams, remote work dynamics, and collaboration effectiveness. This led to the development of new models for managing distributed teams and evaluating the productivity of remote employees. In the realm of personnel selection and assessment, The third industrial revolution introduced computer-based testing and psychometric tools, transforming recruitment practices. These innovations enhanced the precision and efficiency of employee selection, allowing for large-scale and standardized evaluation of cognitive abilities, technical skills, and personality traits. Furthermore, e-learning and digital training systems became widespread, offering organizations scalable solutions for continuous employee development. IO psychologists are designing, implementing, and assessing the effectiveness of digital learning programs to enhance employee competencies. The rapid automation of jobs raised concerns about job security and employee well-being. Technological unemployment due to automation led to increased stress and job insecurity. In response, IO psychologists studied the psychological effects of job displacement and developed strategies to support employee resilience, such as coping mechanisms and organizational support programs. The fourth industrial revolution, characterized by the integration of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and digitalization, brought profound changes to the workplace and significantly influenced industrial organizational psychology. The widespread adoption of AI and automation reshaped job roles, replacing repetitive tasks with intelligent systems. This transformation created a greater demand for new technical skills and promoted human-AI collaboration, compelling IO psychologists to explore its impact on job performance, skill adaptation, and organizational effectiveness. The digitalization of the workplace, driven by cloud technologies and advanced communication tools, accelerated the shift toward remote work and virtual teams. As virtual collaboration became more common, IO psychologists increasingly focused on virtual leadership, remote team dynamics, and the challenges of managing distributed workforces. Research emphasized strategies to enhance communication, trust, and productivity in digital work environments. The increased use of digital technologies also introduced new employee well-being challenges. Tech-induced stress, digital overload, and burnout became prevalent issues. In response, IO psychologists developed interventions promoting work-life balance, stress management programs, and policies to prevent digital exhaustion. Organizations adopted big data and people analytics for employee selection, performance evaluation, and talent management. IO psychologists leveraged predictive analytics to enhance workforce planning, enabling more accurate talent forecasting and improved decision-making. The rapid pace of technological advancements in 4IR required continuous skill development and lifelong learning. Organizations prioritized reskilling and upskilling programs to keep their workforce adaptable. IO psychologists played a key role in designing adaptive learning systems, digital literacy programs, and personalized training interventions to build continuous professional growth. The fifth industrial revolution marks a shift toward human-centric technology, where AI augments rather than replaces human capabilities. Unlike the automation-focused fourth industrial revolution, 5IR emphasizes human-AI collaboration, integrating empathy, creativity, and emotional intelligence with advanced technology. IO psychologists are optimizing human-machine interaction, ensuring that AI enhances productivity, decision-making, and employee well-being. A defining characteristic of 5IR is the prioritization of employee well-being and purpose-driven work. Organizations increasingly emphasize mental health, meaningful work, and employee fulfillment. This shift pushes IO psychologists to develop strategies that integrate emotional intelligence into leadership practices, building empathetic and compassionate management styles. The adoption of sustainable work practices is another hallmark of 5IR. Companies prioritize green technologies and socially responsible operations, creating eco-friendly and ethical work environments. IO psychologists contribute by studying how sustainability practices impact employee engagement, motivation, and organizational commitment. In 5IR, hyper-personalized employee experiences become standard. AI-powered systems deliver individualized training, career development, and learning experiences. IO psychologists focus on designing personalized employee journeys, enhancing engagement, satisfaction, and skills development through tailored interventions. The emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion intensifies in 5IR. Companies leverage AI driven DEI tools to reduce bias in recruitment and performance evaluations. IO psychologists work on ensuring fairness and accountability in AI systems while building inclusive workplace cultures that promote belonging and equity.